And we're live, Your Worship.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Deputy Clerk, and good morning, everybody, and welcome to our first council meeting of 2026. We'll call this meeting to order, and I'd ask that everyone please stand for the national anthem. All right, thank you very much. And we'll now look to item number 1.2 on the agenda is the land acknowledgement, and I'll turn it over to Councillor DeLeo. Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, everyone. The town of Wasaga Beach acknowledges it is located upon the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people of the Three Fires Confederacy. We also acknowledge that the people of the Wyandot Nation also inhabited these lands. We acknowledge that these nations were sovereign nations existing before the arrival of settlers. We respect the spiritual interconnection among these nations to the land and to the water. We also acknowledge that waterways near us have a long history predating European arrival. Since time immemorial, waterways were the lifeblood of the indigenous people by trade and hunting routes. We are dedicated to inclusivity of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in our future stewardship of the land and the longest freshwater beach in the world. In the spirit of reconciliation, we welcome the opportunity of learning to be sustainable caretakers of the land and waterways for all future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor DeLeo. Good morning to you as well. Item number 1.3 on the item is the staff introduction of Jennifer Jones, who is our new Director of Library Services and Chief Executive Officer. And our Library Board Chair, Lorraine Gruzak, is in attendance today to introduce Jennifer. So I'll pass the floor to you, Lorraine, and good morning.
Thank you, Mayor Smith, and good morning, Council. On behalf of the Wasaga Beach Public Library Board, I'm delighted to introduce Jennifer Jones to you this morning. Jennifer most recently served for over 10 years as the CEO of the Peterborough Public Library. During that time, her leadership experiences included working with city departments and contractors over a 2-year period to renovate their main library, establishing a library branch in partnership with the Twin Pad Arena in a community complex, and also serving as director of the city's Cultural Services Division for a 1-year period. Jennifer brings a strong academic background to her role with us. She has a Bachelor of Arts degree from Brock University, a Master of Library and Information Science from Western University, and diplomas from the Association of Municipal Managers, Clerks, and Treasurers in the area of managing in the municipal environment. Tomorrow, Jen will have been with us for 2 weeks, and during that short time, she has immersed herself in meetings with staff, patrons, and library partners, and her town leader colleagues. She's been learning about the many programs and partnerships already underway, and those in the planning stages, like the K-12 school opening in 2027. Mayor Smith and Council, we know that you lead our Wasaga Beach Library community in welcoming Jennifer and wishing her success in her CEO role with the Wasaga Beach Public Library. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lorraine, and that's quite a background, and we're happy to have Jennifer on board, so welcome on board, Jennifer. Is Jennifer with us here today? Jennifer, would you like to say a few words?
Hello.
Hi there. There you are. All right.
Everybody.
Great smile. Good morning.
I really don't have much to add. That's a lovely introduction from Lorraine, so thank you very much. It's quite the accolade, but in general, I'm very, very happy to be here, and everybody's been lovely and wonderful, and I'm very excited to get to know the area better and keep diving in.
Great. Well, that's super, and we're glad to have you on board, Jennifer. Welcome. All right, now moving along then on to item number 2 is the disclosure of pecuniary interests. I have none before me at this point in time. If at some point throughout the meeting a member of council feels they have a pecuniary interest, please let us know at that time. And then item number 3 is the adoption of the agenda. And before I go to the recommended motion, I'm going to turn it over to our clerk just to give an update on the agenda. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to let council and the public know that item 6.1, delegation, has been added to the agenda. Accordingly, we have moved report item 8.3, application for draft plan of subdivision, up in the agenda to consider the matter right after the delegation. Thank you, Your Worship.
Great, thank you, Madam Clerk. And so we do have a recommended motion then on the adoption of the agenda, and that is that the contents of the agenda of January 15th, 2026 be approved as circulated. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Madam Clerk, I am not seeing council on my screen here.
Okay, we'll just take a 2-minute pause and we will get that worked out.
Okay. There we are. That looks great. Looks like we're fixed. All right. I'll read the recommended motion one more time then. It is recommended that the contents of the agenda of January 15th, 2026 be approved as circulated. Could I have a move and a second? Moved by Councillor Belanger, seconded by Councillor DeLeo. All in favor? That carries unanimously. All right, on to item number 4, the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held December 11th, 2025. The recommended motion is that the minutes of the council meeting held December 11th, 2025 be adopted as circulated. Any questions or comments on those minutes? Seeing none, a mover and a seconder for this, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Snell, seconded by Councillor Timms. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 5, presentations. We do have our comprehensive zoning bylaw review, and members of staff and a representative from WSP Consulting are in attendance to provide us with a comprehensive zoning bylaw review. And I'll now pass the floor to Candace Bondarchuk, one of our planners, to give this presentation. Candace?
Thank you. Good morning, Your Worship, Council, and members of the public joining us today. As you are all aware, we did begin the zoning bylaw review process in early 2023. And so this presentation is regarding a relaunch now of the new comprehensive zoning bylaw. Next slide, please. So this slide is the project overview slide and includes the project team from both WSP and the town, which is the town's consultants, and members of the planning department currently leading the comprehensive zoning bylaw review. So from WSP is the project manager, Frank Marzo, deputy project manager, Daniel Wendy, and engagement lead, Shannon Holness, who joins us today as well as a presenter for part of this presentation and will provide an overview shortly of the emerging trends and zoning topics. Town staff include, of course, myself, Senior Planner of Development, Matt Ellis is Senior Planner of Policy, and Mark Bryan, Manager of Planning. On the right-hand side of the slide are the key deliverables. So technical memo number 1 is currently posted on the town's Engage Wasaga page, and technical memos number 2 to 7 I will speak to later in this presentation on next steps, and our consultants are continuing to collaborate with town staff to develop the draft zoning bylaw. Next slide, please. So as council is all aware, the official plan was adopted, and the town's official plan includes a vision statement and classifies lands in Wasaga Beach into broad areas and designations. The town's new official plan was adopted precisely on November 27, 2025, which ensures consistency with provincial and county policies. And just to give an overview for the public, an official plan essentially is a blueprint guiding future growth and development and provides a framework for development decisions going forward. So an official plan provides the vision and general direction related to growth management, employment, tourism, economic development, infrastructure, environmental protection, health and safety, just to name a few categories. And it also provides the framework for the bylaw, and that zoning bylaw must be implemented. So essentially, lastly, all town bylaws are required to conform and align to the official plan that was adopted by this council. Next slide, please. So this is just the official plan designation map. It's a very high level. The official plan classifies lands in Wasaga Beach into the broad areas as shown in this map. So it classifies it into land use into a variety of designations, and this particular slide depicts Schedule A, which is the community structure plan. And you'll see it classifies the town into basically 5 main designations. And I wanted to break that down for the public to understand in terms of the color coding here. So the red is the strategic growth areas, which further includes specifics for each growth area. For example, you'll see on the right-hand side for Schedule C, it breaks it down into mixed-use areas, downtown core and gateway, and of course, it's our longest freshwater beach in on the beach, which is that light blue color. And the yellow areas would be the neighborhood areas. Those are typically what you see as the low-density residential areas. The small blue area there on the east side is the employment area, which is for business. All the green that you can see, mainly, of course, the provincial parks is our greenland area, which is the areas that are environmentally protected and include parks and open space areas. And the brown is our future urban areas. Next slide, please. And the reason why I highlight just quickly the official plan is that the zoning bylaw enforces the official plan by setting rules for each of those land use designations. So it outlines the permitted uses, development standards, lot dimensions, and placement of buildings. So essentially, the official plan and the zoning bylaw work together as a puzzle that fits together. The official plan is the overarching policy and vision, whereas the zoning bylaw is like the nuts and bolts, where the zoning bylaw rules to have clearly defined, detailed, and specific legally enforceable provisions. And what I mean by that is the zoning bylaw enforces the official plan by setting rules for each land use designation, and that legislative requirement comes from the Planning Act. So we as a municipality are required to update the zoning bylaw no less than 3 years after the approval of the official plan update. So all land in Wasaga Beach is classified into various zones that corresponds to the official plan. Each zone is classified by a symbol that corresponds to that zone. So for example, many of people in town will be familiar with the R1 zone, and that R1 zone would essentially include your permitted uses and setbacks and would determine your building envelope. If planning staff receive a proposal for development that does not conform with zoning, then the applicant must apply to amend the zoning, and that would typically be by way of a zoning bylaw amendment, or perhaps if it was minor enough, an applicant would seek a minor variance. And then finally, zoning bylaws serve as a reference for everyone collectively as the community, council, and staff when making these development decisions. And that can be seen, for example, when a zoning bylaw amendment comes forward before council and planning staff seek public input by way of a public meeting. Next slide, please. So the overall key objective of the comprehensive zoning bylaw review is to create a progressive zoning bylaw that is effective, that's user-friendly, and it's more importantly easy to interpret by the public, staff, town council, stakeholders, and the development industry as a whole. So the core objectives are to align and implement the policies of the town's official plan, to be user-friendly for all audiences with clear and purposeful regulations, and of course to be accessible for everyone to understand. Provide regulations that support better development outcomes, and we can improve on our built form of communities by doing that, and I'll get into that in a second, and be efficient and adaptable over time. We want to create a zoning bylaw that allows for creativity and some flexibility to evolve over time. Next slide, please. So there's some approaches to zoning. One being that, you want to decide what a zoning bylaw controls. So you have form-based, you have use-based approaches, and then you have a hybrid approach. So I'll start with the form-based regulation approach. So essentially, form-based regulation is the physical built form and its relationship to the public realm. It regulates how buildings look and interact with the surrounding area, and may dictate building height, massing, facade design, and streetscape elements. It reinforces the distinct character of certain areas, and it supports other goals such as infill intensification in strategic growth areas, and of course encourages walkable neighborhoods and active transportation. Next slide, please. The approach to zoning that is use-based is regulated by uses and activities which typically occur on a property. This is what most of us are familiar with. It's traditional zoning, which separates land uses into zones such as residential, commercial, environmental protection, perhaps industrial. It applies many of the same zoning standards to every type of building within a zone. Next slide, please. And then, of course, we have the hybrid method approach, which is what we are looking to achieve here. And it aims to balance community character preservation with modern development needs. So it integrates the certainty of traditional use-based regulations with flexibility and predictable physical outcomes of more form-based regulations. I'll turn the next slide over to Shannon with WSP to provide an overview of emerging trends now.
Good morning, and thank you, Candace. For the next few slides, I will provide an overview of the trends and approaches that have been observed in municipalities similar to Wasaga Beach, and following this, I will go over work we have completed to date. With regard to trends, these include additional residential units, tiny homes, residential zones, sustainability, nodes and corridors, as well as regulations for amenity areas. These approaches we're describing may influence the changes to the zoning bylaw, but will be applied in a contextually appropriate manner to assure that zoning standards are applied in a manner that reflects the future vision for the town. In preparing the draft zoning bylaw text that's currently under review by town staff, we examined the zoning bylaws of municipalities situated both adjacent and near the town of Wasaga Beach, as well as those within the Greater Toronto Area. So that includes municipalities such as Collingwood and Tecumseh, as well along with other cities such as Kawartha Lakes, Burlington, Markham, Brampton, and Vaughan. With regard to additional residential units as the first trend, additional residential units are also known as second suites or coach houses or basement apartments, and are secondary dwellings located on the same lot as a primary residence. Recent provincial changes permit up to three dwelling units on all urban service lots, and 2 units within the main home and 1 in a detached structure. So this creates more flexible housing options and supports intensification goals while ensuring neighborhood character is maintained. For tiny homes, these offer different sizes. So the offering of different sizes is key to improving housing affordability in Wasaga Beach. So we must consider both fixed and mobile tiny homes when updating the zoning bylaw. And it will be important to introduce clear, modern definitions for tiny homes to ensure regulatory clarity and support innovative housing solutions. Next, we're going to speak to residential zoning on the next slide, as well as sustainability. The zoning bylaw identifies various residential zones across Wasaga Beach, each permitting different housing types such as single-detached, semi-detached, townhomes, and apartments. There is a potential to broaden permissions to support infill development and missing middle housing like triplexes and small apartments, which will help to diversify housing choices. With regard to sustainability trends, conservation and sustainable development are key priorities for the town, including mitigating and adapting to climate change. So the zoning bylaw can be updated to encourage sustainability through permitting renewable energy systems such as solar panels, requiring sustainable landscaping and permeable surfaces, allowing for urban agriculture and community gardens, and also incorporating shoreline and floodplain mapping updates. On the next slide, we're going to go over nodes and corridors and amenity area regulations. So the new official plan introduces a nodes and corridor strategy, which focuses on 6 strategic growth areas, including downtown Wasaga Beach. The zoning bylaw will address appropriate zoning and regulations for each strategic growth area, permitted uses that support public and private investment, and the integration of mixed-use development and active transportation. For amenity area regulations, these refer to both indoor and outdoor social, recreational, and multi-purpose spaces within multi-residential and mixed-use buildings. So as we revise zoning for strategic growth areas, there's an opportunity to introduce clear amenity area requirements for multi-residential developments, which would support livability and community well-being, as well as complete communities. In summary, these zoning changes will aim to balance housing choice, sustainability, strategic growth, and community amenities. All proposed changes will be tailored to Wasaga Beach's context and future vision. Next, I'll go over some of the zoning bylaw update progress that we've made. So to date, our team has made significant progress in preparing groundwork for Wasaga Beach's zoning bylaw update, ensuring alignment with the official plan and future vision for the Wasaga Beach community. We've prepared a background report and the technical memos, which Candice will go over, but essentially these will address a series of technical matters, such as minor variances, updates to lot and building standards, zoning for future development, and enhancement to zone structures to align with the official plan. Those are currently in draft and under review for town staff. We've also prepared a working draft of the zoning bylaw, which is also under review by town staff. On the next slide, I'll just go over a bit of the public consultation to date. So public consultation for the zoning bylaw review took place throughout 2023 from April to December. The town formally notified the public of the project and also invited Indigenous nations to participate in the process. With regards to Indigenous engagement, we did have a meeting with Rama First Nation, who requested early and milestone consultations to address key concerns. We also had a consultation through virtual meetings with technical agencies such as Simcoe County and Ontario Parks, and through those meetings we were able to identify some relevant topics of interest. A public open house was held in April 2023 with about 25 participants, and that prominently was to go over Technical Memo 1, the background report, and guide participants through a series of interactive display boards, which kind of gave a primer on the background research and some of the key findings. Complementary to the public open house, an online survey was posted on the project website, which gathered 23 responses, most of those supporting the simplification of the zoning bylaw. So throughout the consultation that took place in 2023, the key issues raised included short-term rentals, environmental protection, mixed-use permissions, building design, and infrastructure needs. The top priorities for clarity were plain language, simplified regulations, and the incorporation of diagrams and illustrations, as well as retaining clear existing rules. And participants really stressed the importance of user-friendly bylaws and effective enforcement. I will turn the presentation back over to Candace, who will provide additional context on next steps.
Thank you very much, Shannon. So this is one of our last concluding slides, which indicates the next steps. So as you'll see here, we are here in phase 2. We are internally reviewing technical memos 2 to 7 to have those posted on the Engage page shortly, probably likely in the next week after this meeting. We will be looking at a consultation for zoning issues workshop, and then moving forward into the new year, spring, with a draft zoning bylaw public open house, and of course a statutory public meeting. We're aiming to have the final draft zoning bylaw available for public consumption probably around fall. And next slide, please. Town staff have already been engaging and collaborating with internal departments such as building, bylaw, and engineering, and this is very important. By holding these weekly meetings to discuss zoning provisions, we want to get a sense of any particular zone standards that have been challenging or concerns for each department and division. And finally, there will be an upcoming public consultation scheduled in the spring, summer of this year to update and be advertised, of course, by our communications team. And planning staff will continue to work with our consultants to finalize and produce the draft zoning bylaw document. If any member of the public wishes to get in touch with the project team, they may do so by contacting us or visiting the project website. And you'll see at the bottom left-hand side, the Let's Talk Wasaga Beach zoning bylaw update page is available. And thanks very much for allowing us the opportunity to provide this update on the new comprehensive zoning bylaw, your worship and council. And I will turn it back to you now, Mayor Smith.
Thank you very much, Candace and Shannon, for that presentation. I'll look to members of council for questions. Councillor Eagle.
Thank you. I really don't have any questions. I just really want to thank you for this very in-depth and understandable presentation. The graphics were great. I certainly zeroed in on the tiny houses, the residential. So thank you very much for the report.
Thank you, Councillor Eagle. Councillor Belanger. You're on mute, Councillor.
Okay, thank you, through the mayor. I have a number of questions, but I think there's ample time to get to that. But obviously, I think all of our major concern is that, with our growing population, that the need for population to service, especially our more senior population, is to have more affordable housing, and we speak to that, but I don't know if there's a possibility for a training session for council, or whether we just meet one-on-one with a number of questions for clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I would suggest that perhaps that's a good idea. We'll set up a training session with planning staff in council in the not too distant future to go through that and answer a lot of questions that we may have with respect to that. All right, next is Councillor Timms.
Thank you, Worship. I think that my question might have been answered. What struck me going through it was the less than 3 years to update the zoning bylaw, and I saw in the presentation that it should be ready by fall, summer, fall. But what happens then? Is there a lag in time after that before it will come to approval, or is that realistic, thinking it'll be ready for us to have a look at and make the decision on it? What I also want to say is I'm always disappointed that so few people engaged either online or live and in person. It's a really big deal doing this work, and it's amazing how much work goes into it. It looks exciting, and I agree. I think council needs more information and more understanding about planning. So my question is, does that mean it'll reach its final goal in the fall? Thank you, Your Worship.
Are you looking for final approval, in other words, to move it forward?
Yes.
And have it be standing? Yep. I'll look to Candace for that.
Through your worship to Councillor Tim, certainly that's the goal, to have it before council and adopted by fall, winter. Of course, that there will be a time for appeals to be received, but we are certainly on our trajectory being before that 3 years is within the year of the OP being adopted, and that's still our goal.
Yeah, I think it's rather important. The OP has been, I don't want to say outstanding, but needing updating for many, many years. We're finally there. So I would assume that as soon as we get approval on that from the county, that we move forward to make sure that our zoning is in place, so as that we can, move down a smooth path, a much smoother path than we've had to deal with in the past. We say it over and over again that we've got developers coming to council almost every other meeting, it seems, asking for zoning amendments. And it's not because they're asking for anything outrageous or spectacular. Most municipalities already include this in their up-to-date official plans. We haven't done that. So here we are. So we're at a great point, I think. Thank you, Candace. Deputy Mayor Snell?
Thank you, Worship. Through you, I think the request from Councillor Boulanger is a great one in regards to educating council. And I think because one thing that I would like to know more is the province is constantly changing their mandates in regards to housing and taking powers away from municipalities and being able to make some of those decisions. So if you could please just make a note to maybe include that in your briefing to council, and then as an outcome after that, to be able to put together a simple presentation for the public. Because I think the public oftentimes does not understand that we don't have the ability to turn away accessory dwellings or basement suites or intensification within a R1 residential lot. We obviously want to try to preserve the character of an established neighborhood, but some of those things are beyond our means and abilities to make decisions, and it's really up to the province. So I think it's important for residents to understand that as well, that even though you've purchased in an R1, it may not stay exactly like that forever. Thank you, and thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. It's an excellent point. We often hear folks out there with mis and disinformation, that council should not allow this or shouldn't allow that or should make this happen or that happen. And you hear us often say that we're creatures of the province. At the end of the day, the province makes the rules, and it's our job to abide by those rules and to work within those parameters. And with these types of changes, I can certainly understand why sometimes the general public's not happy with what they're seeing happen in their neighborhood or close by. But unfortunately, it is beyond council's control to be able to change that or to stop it. So very important that we move that forward. Any other questions or comments from members of council? All right, seeing none, I think what's important to point out when we go through the training and then for the public in future, ladies, is the first one that I made a note on is tiny homes. You mentioned that you'd mentioned the word mobile. So I think it's important that we really define what a mobile tiny home is, because some people may determine that that's a small trailer and that someone could live in that year round. We need to have that defined and very clear as to what a mobile tiny home means. The other one is, three dwelling units on a property. We need to be clear, do two of them have to be in the main building and then you can have one accessory building, or can it be three separate buildings and it can be one or two be mobile with the main accessory building? We need to make sure that that is very, very clear and understandable for the general public, where I think we face a lot of issues as we move forward. The other thing, if you were to look at the map that was up there and it had the five areas, and one of them being future urban, I found that very interesting, because that's another thing that I think is going to really have an effect on people in neighborhoods. And it be very clear as to let's define what we mean by urban. We know what the definition of urban is, but I think we need to simplify that if we can, so as that it's clear to the public, and define those areas, so as that in future when folks are buying homes in these areas, and they may be buying these homes believing for whatever reason that their backyard is going to be green space, for example, forever. That just may not be the case. And so if the map is marked future urban, you need to be prepared somewhere down the road that is going to be developed fairly extensively, I would think. And so I think we need to be very clear on that. And then the last one I would say that needs to be defined very clearly for the public is the density levels, low density versus medium density versus high density. And what is that threshold for each of those, and where does it start and end? So is that the general public, again, when out purchasing property or building homes, they have an understanding as to what may be able to come in future. You could have, a single family residential home maybe in some areas that may have a 3 or 4 or 5 story building next door. And I think that the more of that we can be very clear and defined on up front and have out there public facing on a regular basis, I think is going to save a lot of issues and problems down the road. So those are my comments. If there's nothing further from council or staff, thank you very much again, ladies, for that great presentation. We do have a recommended motion that the council receive the presentation pertaining to the comprehensive zoning bylaw review for information. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Councillor Tim, seconded by Councillor White. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you, ladies. And we're now moving on to item number 6 on the agenda, which is delegations, and we do have one this morning, 6.1. We have Julie Cole with respect to item 8.3, the application for draft plan of subdivision PS 0423. And this is the Ambria subdivision, I believe, out next to Wasaga 500 go-karts. So we do have Julie. Welcome, Julie. Good morning. Happy New Year. And the floor is yours.
Good morning, Your Worship and members of council. I am representing Wasaga 500 go-karts, which is the property directly adjacent to the proposed development. We believe that the density and built form of Block 37 is an issue in terms of land use and compatibility, as it is directly beside our business. While the approvals have been granted, the issues of noise and light impacts on new residents remain a significant concern. According to the conditions, condition 54, the fencing, the proposed fencing to separate commercial land use from residential is a 1.8 meter tight board fencing. We feel that the height of 1.8 meters is not sufficient. This fence must not be climbable, and it should extend the complete length of the property boundary between the track and the proposed development. The fencing, we feel, should not be considered only for sound, but also for the safety and security of our customers on the track and those of the residents living in the units. We need to ensure that there is no access from the new development to our property, as people and or pets would create dangerous situations. It would also ensure the security of our business to prevent any trespassing, vandalism, or theft that might arise from the new development. The proposal to address noise is with a noise barrier and air conditioning units, neither which have been peer reviewed or tested. Condition 68 regarding warnings about air conditioning does not do much. It leaves the residents to determine whether they open their windows and doors during the summer. And it's hard to believe that residents would want to be stuck indoors with windows and doors shut during these months. Air conditioning does not seem to be an appropriate solution, especially considering it is at the residents' discretion to install the units and when to operate them. The county planning report approving the OPA promised a peer review of the applicant's noise study. We would like a copy of the peer review report to review and comment on. We would also ask town to allow our expert to undertake a peer review of the noise study. Condition 68, there's a warning pertaining to light impact from the track, is very misleading and insignificant. It states that that there may be lighting impacts when it is clear that there will be significant lighting impacts from May to October when we were operating. Condition 98 regarding implementing the recommendations of the noise study is not clear enough. It should be modified to make sure that the conditions with respect to noise mitigation be reviewed in accordance with peer review of both the town peer reviewers and our peer reviewers. Wasaga 500 Go-Karts is a significant local employer and tourist draw that has been here for over 60 years. If the noise mitigation for the proposed residential development next to it is not robust, the go-kart track will be found to be out of compliance with provincial noise guidelines at no fault of our own. As a longtime business, we will be directly impacted by the proposed development. We require that the town revise the conditions to make them clearer and more robust and put the onus on the applicant to ensure that the approved use is not incompatible with our current use. We would further like assurance from the council that any lighting or noise complaints that may arise are not our responsibility and will not result in any pressure on our business to revise its operation to accommodate the new development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julie. I will look to comments first from staff, if there are any.
Thank you, Your Worship. No comments directly from staff. We have obviously heard from the resident. Sorry, not the resident, the operator. They were the same comments that we heard at the public meeting. We do note that in our staff report on the last page, we specifically noted that we were taking the Wasaga 500 comments seriously. As the person who's made the deputation has noted, there are several comments or conditions that we think are appropriate. The noise study itself has been available and it remains available for public review. It's on the Engage website, the active development map. And we will be doing a peer review of the noise study when the application goes from draft approval to the registration stage, and the applicant's agent is aware of that. And I also believe that the applicant's agent is also watching the deputation today. So we'll be taking those comments from the deputation and making sure that they're addressed, and it is the onus on the applicant to make sure that those conditions are satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trevor. All right, I'll now look to members of council for questions or comments. Councillor Belanger.
Yes, thank you. Through the mayor, I believe the business's concerns are reasonable, given that they have been there a long time. And the only thing I would add to the comments is when we say that the applicant will be responsible for any noise or lighting concerns, that would be in the case of that they stay constant as to what they are today, and that that new vehicles aren't noisier, or that additional lighting is added, or that type of thing. I think that would be fair for both the applicant and the business. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Belanger. Any other members of council with questions or comments? Councillor Eagle?
There, sorry, took a minute there. Thank you. I do too believe that the delegate Julie's comments today were something we should consider. They're down the line and well raised. So I think she has some legitimate concerns there. And so I'm anxious to hear what the applicant has to say today, and that it's on us to make sure that the noise and the lighting is met, and that everyone works together to figure this one out, that we don't want it coming up years down the road. That I just think we have to listen to this. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eagle. Councillor Timms.
Thank you, Your Worship. I absolutely agree that the information that the delegate has brought forward today is something that needs to be considered. I'm especially concerned about fencing. And I've seen situations in my old community where, people bought next to a noisy and bright place and then complained about it after. So I think it's really important on the developer to make sure that buyers understand when and what happens during May to October. But yes, I think, Julie, you have brought some grave concerns or important concerns for us to have a look at, and I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Snell?
Thank you, Worship. Through you. Just curious, we've got Elm development across the street. I'm not sure if bylaws on here, but do we know if there's been many complaints that have come from the Elm development residents in terms of noise and lights?
All right, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Madam Clerk, do we have bylaw?
No, sorry, we don't have those stats available right now as it relates to the Elm development.
All right, so maybe we could get that just for information for council. That would be handy. Anything further, Deputy Mayor Snell?
I just am curious, reading through the section around the noise study. Is the noise study done in terms of, just for my understanding, for the neighborhood, so that the developer understands what the environment is in which they're developing? And if so, was that noise study done during the high season of Wasaga 500's operation? Because obviously if it was a noise study done in their off season when they weren't operating, that would have significantly different outcomes. If someone could please clarify, thank you.
All right, Trevor?
Through your worship, the noise study was undertaken at the request of the planning department. It's a pretty standard operating procedure that we do. So the onus is on the consultant and their agent to provide us a study that was in keeping with the ministry requirements. And to further that, to Deputy Mayor Snell's point and to the deputant's request, the peer review of the noise study will be undertaken by the town, and to make sure that everything is in keeping with provincial requirements. And again, the deputation is also noted that they would like to have a review of the peer review. Certainly would be a public document, and the current news review is on there too if they have a person that they want to look at it today. They don't necessarily have to wait for the peer review as well.
Thank you, Trevor. Councillor DeLeo, are you wanting to ask a question? Okay, you're using the wrong, just so you're aware, there is a hand up. You're using the clap, so it floats through the screen and then it disappears on you. So there we go. Perfect. All right, that's the one. All right, Councillor DeLeo.
Thank you. I was wondering why we're disappearing. Sorry, my bad. Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Julie's comments were very valid. I would hope, though, that new buyers are aware that the truck is next door. And that I would also hope because I know when I bought my new home 17 years ago in Wasaga, I would hope that at least the builder would let these new residents or new buyers know that, there will be light, there will be noise, just so that they're aware before they purchase these homes. So I'm hoping for that. But Julie's comments were very, very valid, that buyer beware. Thank you.
Good point, Councillor. And I've made a recommendation. I think staff have already done this, and that is that one of the conditions will be, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Trevor, that in the offer of purchase and sale agreement, and not just the very first one to sell to the first buyer, that this also survive. So anytime one of these properties are purchased and sold, that in the offer of purchase and sale, there is a clear notice that the property is located where it is, that Wasaga 500 is there. It's been there for over 60 years. It can be noisy. There'll be a lot of light in the summer. So is that the buyers can't come back later, as we see. It's like people buying next to an airport and then complaining about the airplanes, right? Or a rail yard or a rail track. So I've made that recommendation. I'm just going to look to Trevor. Trevor, can you just elaborate on that? Will that be in the documentation?
Yes, through your worship. So the conditions state that the offer of purchase and sale will have the various, and there's just the noise and the lighting. There's some other conditions in there as well, as you'll see, some warning clauses, and it'll survive in perpetuity because the noise clauses will also be in the site plan control agreement that will be registered on title. So not only will the first people in know about it, people who buy in, it'll be in the subdivision agreement, and the warning clauses will be in there in perpetuity as well.
Excellent, thank you. All right, Councillor White. Sorry, Councillor, did you have a supplemental, Councillor?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I do. I would hope that the buyers look through that purchase of sale, because sometimes when it's in tiny little fonts, it's hard to miss. So unless they bring it to a lawyer and the lawyer goes through it like line by line, they're not going to catch it. Because, these purchase of sales can be like 10, 15 pages long. And so they'll just read the top part and the part up, and then you get a bunch of blah, 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 blah. So I hope it's very visible so they can see it, and not right at the end or hidden somewhere where they can't see it. This way they can come back and say, I didn't see it.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. However, I will say that, you hear often, well, it's hidden in the fine print. I'm quite familiar with offices of purchase and sale. There's no fine print. It's all the same print. And it's, the onus is on the purchaser's agent, the realtor, and the purchaser's lawyer to go through those offers, especially the lawyer, and point that out to the purchaser. But if the purchaser doesn't do their due diligence, at least if they do come and complain, we'll be able to go back to that offer of purchase and sale, because we can have a blank one on file and say, here it is. So you need to speak to your realtor, or you need to speak to your lawyer as to why you weren't made aware of that. It's an excellent point. Okay, Councillor White.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Yeah, I find some of this problematic, and I recognize Julie Kroll here in her comments and saying that it shouldn't impact her business. And I need to look downstream a little bit in this. And we had a comment earlier about them having some sort of an agreement not to change the lighting or the noise levels from what they currently are. And I strongly disagree with that type of restriction on a business. Especially when they took the opportunity to be remote in the first place. And we don't know what the future holds for this type of industry down the road, whether it be electric cars that put off a different type of sound or different type of lighting with regards to LEDs and stuff like that can have sort of, other, that could be different from what they currently have. And I think that if we restrict this business like that, A, I think it's unfair, and B, it could be problematic for them to grow, or to offer different services and events, whatever, to their clientele. So I just want to make sure that we don't bind Wasaga 500 here too much into an agreement that's going to be detrimental to them down the road. Let's be honest, they were there first. They're out in the middle of nowhere for a good reason, and I think that we need to respect that.
Thank you, Councillor. All right, supplemental back to Councillor Belanger.
Yes, through the mayor. You actually addressed my question, but just supplemental to your concern, what about resales? Are we because that's still a concern because the business is going to be there for a long time. And are we able to somehow ensure that those clauses go into all of aftermarket resales in that subdivision?
So as Trevor indicated, Councillor, it'll be in perpetuity, which means, yes, it will survive the original owner. Any offer of purchase and sale must include those clauses.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments from members of council? All right. The Kroll family has been in business for over 60 years here. First of all, congratulations. That's a feat all on its own to be in business for over 60 years and successfully in business. I often hear people talk about, I've been to Wasaga Beach and went to the go-karts, and my question always used to be, well, Wasaga 500 or Blue Mountain? But now Wasaga 500 is the only one, and it's a great facility. Been there a long time. The Kroll family have been dedicated citizens to our community and to our business community, and for that we're thankful. And I couldn't agree more with the comments here that as we move forward, we should not be having a negative effect on the Wasaga 500 go-karts. I think, as we said, they were there first. Long before anything else. But I would say, there used to be a horse riding stable right next door, and the horses could get along and survive. I'm sure the people can as well, but we need to be very clear, and I think you're hearing today, Julie, that we will be very clear, and we'll give you all the opportunity you need to review what's in place, but we will be very clear to anyone purchasing there that you folks were there first. And Councillor White made a great point. I get the fact that we don't want go-karts now to have engines that are 5 times louder than they are now, but I highly doubt that's going to be the case. If anything, I would see them getting quieter in time. But the onus should not be on Wasaga 500. It should be, it is what it is. You purchased where you purchased, and you need to be prepared and aware of that. So thank you for your delegation, Julie. Say hi to everybody, and
thank you.
Hopefully we'll all be able to move forward here in an amicable manner, but be rest assured, I think what you're hearing today from council and staff is we understand your concerns, and we're going to be making sure that we're doing the best we can to look after those.
Thank you very much.
All right, we do have a recommended motion here that council receive the presentation, the delegation from Julie Kroll to council pertaining to item 8.3, application for draft plan of subdivision PS 0423 be received. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Councillor Eagle, seconded by Deputy Mayor Snell. All in favor? That carries unanimously. We'll now move on to item number
8.3. We brought that report up, Your Worship.
He brought that report up. So this is the application draft plan of subdivision PS 0423 20260115-59, and the recommended motion there is that the report titled Application for Draft Plan of Subdivision Ambria Wasaga Limited PS 0423 to the council meeting of January 15, 2026 be received, and that council approve the draft plan subdivision PS 0423 for a period of 3 years, being a draft plan of subdivision submitted by Ambria Wasaga Limited, the owner, along with the associated draft plan conditions. Questions or comments on this? Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor DeLeo, seconded by Councillor Timms. All in favor? Opposed? Opposed or in favor, Councillor Timms?
Your Worship, I'm in favor, but my hand disappeared just there for some reason. So.
No problem. So then that motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 7, government relations. We have none today. Item number 8 is staff reports. And the following staff reports have been pulled and moved to matters for consideration to be voted on separately, and that's item 8.3. And we have a recommended motion that the following consent list items under staff reports and all the recommendations contained therein be adopted, excluding items pulled and moved to matters for consideration to be voted on separately. Any questions or comments? A mover and a seconder for this, please.
Your Worship, before we get the mover and seconder, I just want to indicate that items 8.3 and 8.5 have been moved.
Thank you. All right, then a mover and a seconder for this, please. Moved by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Belanger. All in favor? That carries unanimously. On to item number 9, which is correspondence items, and the following correspondence items have been pulled and moved to matters for consideration to be voted on separately, and that is item 9.2. And aside from that, the recommended motion that the following consent list items under correspondence be received for information, excluding items pulled and moved to matters for consideration to be voted on separately. Questions or comments? Mover and a seconder for this, please. Moved by Councillor Timms and seconded by Councillor Ego. All in favor? That carries unanimously. And then item number 10 is minutes of boards and committees. And the recommended motion is that the consent list items under minutes of boards and committees be received for information. Any questions or comments here? Seeing none, move on to seconder for this, please. Moved by Councillor White, seconded by Deputy Mayor Snell. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Item number 11 is matters for consideration. And the first item is the K-12 School and Community Hub land transfer, and this is pulled by Deputy Mayor Snell. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Worship. Through you. Perhaps maybe before my comments, I'll ask Carla, who's been sort of the champion of this project, to speak to it first, if I could.
Certainly. Good morning, Carla.
Good morning, Your Worship and Council. You can hear me okay?
We can, and we can see your presentation.
Great. Thank you. Great. Okay, so to accompany our staff report today, we just wanted to take this opportunity to provide council and anyone watching at home with a brief update on the progress of the K-12 School and Community Hub. And then we'll also take a few slides to walk council through the recommended real estate agreements that form the staff report. And I think that this will help give a bit more of a visual reference to some of the lengthy legal descriptions within the proposed agreements. So as I'm sure you have all seen, there's been a significant amount of activity on the site, which will become the school. So I'll start by bringing you up to speed on what's been completed so far. So Farsight Development, who currently owns most of the land east of the Wasaga Stars Arena, has already begun preparing the site for construction by the school board. So while Farsight's contractors were on site working on lands that will eventually become part of their subdivision, which is east of the school, the contractors have also completed a considerable amount of work that directly benefits both the town and school board future sites. So this has included things such as tree removal, installation of underground infrastructure and conduit. They even began pouring the concrete pad that the school will ultimately be built on. And a lot of that early site preparation by Farsight really will give the school board that leg up to expedite their timeline of the school construction itself. So earlier this month, the school board released their general construction tender, which is set to close in February, I think the third week of February. But before that tender can be awarded, the school board needs to secure ownership of the lands where the school will be built. And that's why the land agreements being presented to council today are such a critical piece of this project. The school board anticipates that they will have shovels in the ground this spring, and they remain on track to open the school in September of 2027. Chris, could you switch the slide for me, please? Thank you. So I know that lengthy legal descriptions can sometimes start to blend together. I wrote the staff report, I get it. So hopefully this color-coded reference plan prepared by Director Houghton, it's been a great tool in helping us understand the land ownership. And so I thought it would be helpful to share it with council today and sort of walk you through the various parcels visually instead of just reading those long legal descriptions. So this slide shows the current state of land ownership, or what we refer to as the before scenario. And to help orient you, in the bottom left corner, the white land just to the left of that Part 1 yellow rectangle is where the arena is currently located. At a really high level, the lands shown here are currently owned by two parties. The blue and the green areas are owned by Farsight, and the yellow and the peach areas are the lands that are owned by the town of Wasaga Beach. Any areas not colored on the map are not changing ownership. So for example, Part 14, the large white rectangle to the right of that peach line running down the middle, It's already owned by Farsight and it will remain so. So it's forming part of their future subdivision. The legend in the top left corner explains what the different colors represent in terms of the proposed transfers, but it's a bit small, so I'm happy to kind of walk you through it. So we'll start with the blue. The blue represents land currently owned by Farsight that will be transferred to the town through the proposed land exchange agreement. So that is Appendix B of the staff report. The green land represents land currently owned by Farsight. Remember, they own blue and green. And that is land that will ultimately be sold to the school board. So that happens through their own agreement of purchase and sale between those two parties. Part 2, however, which is the big green square at the bottom, will first be transferred from Farsight to the town and held in trust. And that's in accordance with the trust agreement, which is included in the staff report as Appendix D. So this agreement, the trust agreement, allows the town to temporarily take title of that land that's currently owned by Farsight. And then under the terms of that trust agreement, the town holds that land in trust for the school board. It doesn't exercise any ownership rights. And then once the conditions of the Farsight and school board agreement of purchase and sale have been satisfied, the town will transfer that land to the school board. And this type of agreement is pretty commonplace when you have multiple parties working collaboratively who need to execute agreements at different times. So the yellow and peach parcels are town-owned lands. And those are the lands that staff are recommending council declare surplus, and that's in accordance with recommendations 2, 3, and 4 of the staff report. So more specifically, yellow is town land that will be sold to the school board through the proposed agreement of purchase and sale, Appendix C of the staff report. And this includes Part 1, which is the section of the arena library parking lot, that small section. A small sliver known as Part 11, you see it enlarged on the right side of the image there. And a very, very small triangular piece at the bottom right corner of the larger Part 2 green square. It's so tiny, it's right at the road. The peach represents town land, which will be transferred to Farsight through the land exchange agreement. So that peach and blue land, is what's essentially being swapped between Farsight and the town within the land exchange agreement. Chris, could you switch the slide, please? So this slide illustrates the after scenario. Pending council's approval to execute the agreements today, this shows what land ownership will look like once all the transfers are complete. The yellow will be land owned by the school board. Green will be land owned by Farsight. And again, that includes that large green section, which Farsight already owns. And peach will be the land owned by the town. Slide. So this image, it's for illustrative purposes only. Please don't get hung up on the scale of homes or the ponds, but I think it helps add some context to the after scenario that you saw on the previous slide by giving a sense of what the overall community hub will look like. So starting on the west side with the blue arrow pointing towards it, we of course have the existing Wasaga Stars Arena and Wasaga Beach Public Library. Immediately to the east is the new school building. So it will have the high school and the theater on the left side of that building, and the elementary and childcare are on the right side of that building. You'll notice that the school board is located the school building is located quite close to the arena and library, and that's very intentionally designed. We'll have many students, including lots of our small little JK friends, who will be regularly walking across to use the library, and that shorter distance and less traffic crossing will be key to their safety. The proximity of the two buildings will also allow the town to program the theater in conjunction with some of the space in the Wasaga Stars Arena. So for example, we could host a dinner and show event using the Remax room for dinner. You take a short stroll and then you cross over to the nearby theater. So really starting to look at how we can use these spaces together. The close connection of those two buildings also helps reinforce the idea that this is one integrated community hub or council, or community hub and campus. So council may recall when Salter Pilon, who are the school board architects, presented to you last spring, they shared some conceptual images of the school, and the design of the school is meant to integrate with the design of the arena. It's meant to look like one cohesive campus. As a result of the school building placement, some parking spaces in the arena lot have been permanently relocated. So the town is working with our consulting engineers on the design of a northwest parking lot. So that will be located to the left of the existing stormwater management pond right behind the arena library. And this new lot will actually it will more than replace the spaces that have been removed. And once the school is complete, the town will actually have more parking on the campus than it ever did. So 6 months ago, I believe we had 359 spaces. And once school construction is complete, we anticipate having approximately 496 spaces for parking. So to the north of the school is the town's new track and field, and a reminder that this is the land that is being transferred from Farsight to the town. The town will enter into a lease agreement with the school board for their use of the track and field during school hours, and then outside of those hours, the town will program the field for community use, just like it does its other recreational assets. To the east of the track is a new stormwater management pond, and then the homes shown on top of the green parcel represent part of the Farsight residential development, which was brought forward to council through their draft plan of subdivision this past November. So again, the amenities on this image aren't quite to scale, but hopefully it gives you a sense of how the pieces of the community have fit together. Slide, Chris. So delivering the K-12 community hub requires a series of coordinated land transactions involving multiple parties, multiple agreements. And while the coordination seems a bit complex, it's also what's allowed this project to maximize value for our community. So rather than each party working in isolation, the real estate agreements before council today have been structured by our legal counsel and the legal counsels of both Farsight and the school board to not only support the timely construction of the school, but also to really secure some of these incredible community assets for the town and to do so in a streamlined and cost-effective way. Slide. As we know, this project is about far more than just a school, although bringing Wasaga Beach its first high school is certainly a major milestone for the community. But staff are also really looking forward to the community benefits this project will deliver. So that includes the 300-seat theater, which is going to be a game changer for our arts and cultural community. More than 45 childcare spaces, really important for our growing families and desperately needed in this community. A new track and field amenity, which will allow us to have additional recreational programming, and of course, the introduction of post-secondary opportunities for the community. So we're excited to be entering this next kind of phase of the project, and the recommendations before council today are a key step in moving this whole project forward. So I hope that visual walkthrough of the reference plan was helpful in clarifying some of the different parcels in the agreement, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Carla. That's quite in-depth and explains a lot, but the good news is everything is moving to plan and on schedule. Members of council, any questions or comments? All right, we'll start with Deputy Mayor Snell since she pulled it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship, through you. Thank you, Carla, for such a detailed report and summary. We can see how many layers and moving parts there are involved in this kind of creative thinking, this kind of creative development that the province absolutely loves. And you could see why they love it because of the efficiency of it and the cross-pollination between the groups that are involved and really just the max benefit to the residents and utilization of funding. So thank you very much for the detailed report and really, really happy to have these partners on board with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Snell. Next is Councillor DeLeo.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Carla, thank you for that presentation. It really detailed quite a bit for me. I have a question. Actually, it's a two-part, and it's for Jocelyn. So is Jocelyn available? Because I can't see it on my screen.
Yeah, I do believe Jocelyn's with us.
Okay. It's just a question that several residents have been bringing up with me, and I don't have the answer, so I think Jocelyn will, so if we can make it public. So Jocelyn, do schools pay property taxes to the town? So that's part one. And if they don't, then who pays to collect the garbage and do the snow removal? So Jocelyn, if you can answer that so the public can hear it.
Thank you very much, Councillor DeLeo. School boards do not pay property taxes. That's under the Assessment Act. So none of our public schools currently pay property taxes, nor would these new high schools pay. With regards to our services that we provide, all municipal services are provided at a community benefit level. They're not delivered based on usage by individual property owners or residents. It's based on a community benefit throughout the community. So that's why all services are available regardless of this particular instance where schools don't have to pay the property taxes. As well, it's my understanding too that for the K-12 school, I believe for snow plowing, for example, I believe that they will be doing that themselves. So some services they may look after on their own anyway. So that just gives you a sort of a general idea of how property taxes work with regards to school boards. Thanks.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Yeah, I think it's important to note that maintenance and repair, grass cutting, snow removal, garbage collection, school boards pay for that directly. It's not provided by the municipality. Go ahead, Councillor Doyle.
I have just one more question. It's more curiosity for me. When the board leases our truck, is that a monetary lease or is it also given to them for free? Like, will they pay for the lease?
The terms of the lease, I don't think have been finalized yet. So at this point in time, I don't think it would be the right timeline to be having a conversation about that. But when that comes forward, I think then you can go into that level of detail. I imagine that will be presented at the time that lease is presented.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Councillor White.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, through you. Thank you again, Carla. Exemplary performance here today. I have two questions around the track component. As it is town-owned property, I believe that this is going to be public space when the school's not using it. I know that the MOU probably hasn't been written yet, but is that the intention?
Yes, you're correct.
Excellent.
So they'll have their hours of use, which will be outlined in their lease agreement, and then any time outside of those hours of use, it is the town's program.
That's terrific. One of the other questions I have also is with this track area. There was some discussions earlier around the different types of events that the school can utilize this for, and I know I'm not 100% sure how they work between the school boards with regards to OFSA events and stuff like that, but like, are there other broader events like OFSA or whatever that this is going to be able to host because it is a little bit more of an infrastructure build than would typically be seen at a school?
Thank you for the question. Yes, absolutely. That's something that staff will be looking to if it's something that's outside of the school system. Absolutely. We want to program as much on that track and field facility as possible, as well as working with the school if they're the ones that are scheduling those types of events. Absolutely, we'd be working with them to bring those to the community.
Excellent. Thank you. I think that's tremendous value to the taxpayer. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor White. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Ego?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Kind of a follow-up, Carla. Thank you very much for the presentation, by the way. And kind of a follow-up to Councillor White's. And on events, I know, we have it during the evenings and work with the school board. What if we're looking at getting the Ontario Senior Games? Those would be during the daytime. Probably, much of it would be, for sure. Then we'd work with the school board on that, and I would imagine that would not cause any hiccups. What do you think?
No, great question, and through your worship. Absolutely. So this is, I'm letting little cats out of the bag here. These agreements will come before council in the next couple of weeks, but one thing that we are working on as part of our sort of shared use and the lease agreement is an operations committee and a management committee. So that's a collaboration between the school board and the town staff to kind of plan around those things. So the good news is this school board and their staff have been incredibly collaborative. They understand we're going to have these one-off things that we want to do. And that's a great thing for their students to also be able to see and maybe participate in through community hours and that sort of thing. So I absolutely see a lot of collaboration happening with them in the future to plan those specific events.
Great, thank you. That's what I assumed, but it was good to ask a question, and thanks for that. Great stuff.
Thank you, Councillor Eagle. Councillor Timms?
Thank you, Worship. I now that we're talking about some of the partnerships and shared use, it comes up time and time again that if we're really going to attract the great productions to that theater, that we probably should be considering a marquee. And I just wanted to raise that again while you're in the stage of planning, that we don't want to find that out afterwards, that that's the reason why production companies aren't going to come and use that theater, things like we drive to Meaford or Midland for. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm assuming, Carla, that we're working on all of that still. I know that's been ongoing, and it'll come out in the end. We'll work through that. All right. Any other questions or comments? I don't see this any different than the basketball court and the spring floor that the town paid for in the Wasaga Beach Public School. It's a collaborative effort. We've got to work together with the board in that case as well. There are certain times of the day in the year that it's ours to program and do what we will, and certain times of the day in the year when it's, the school board kind of rules the roost on that. And I see this very much the same. The good news is we've got good collaboration with both boards. At the end of the day, it won't be long and all of our children are going to have high schools in their own community. So positive all the way around, that's for certain. All right, if we have no other further questions or comments, I do have a novel to read here, and the recommended motion is that the report titled K-12 School, or K-12 School, and Community Hub land transfers to the council meeting of January 15th, 2026 be received. And two, that the council declare part South Lot 26, Concession 9, formerly Township of Floss, now Town of Wasaga Beach, designated as Part 1 on Reference Plan 51R 45190, being part of PIN number 58337-0267, lot and part of Lot 24, Concession 9 Floss, being parts 9, 12, 21, and 22, Plan 51R 45190, Town of Wasaga Beach, County of Simcoe, part of PINs 58337-0192, LT, and 58337-0093 LT, and 58337-0189 LT as surplus land shown on the reference plan attached as Appendix E. And three, that council approve the disposition of the surplus lands at a nominal fee as outlined in this report and agreements, and four, that council waive the sales of surplus land policy requirements for the disposition of surplus lands as outlined in this report, and five, that council authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the following agreement subject to technical review by staff and legal review by the town solicitor. The land exchange agreement between the town of Wasaga Beach and Farsight Developments, Wasaga Inc., the agreement of purchase and sale between the town of Wasaga Beach and the Simcoe Muskoka Catholic District School Board, the trust agreements between the town of Wasaga Beach and the Simcoe Muskoka Catholic District School Board, and six, that council authorize staff to proceed with all of the actions necessary to give effect to these agreements, including the execution and registration of any required documents. I don't know who wrote that, but thank you very much. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Councillor Belanger, seconded by Councillor White. All in favor? Oh, sorry, recorded vote. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Belanger.
In favor.
Councillor DeLeo.
In favor.
Councillor Eagle.
Favor.
Deputy Mayor Snell.
In favor?
Councillor Timms.
In favor.
Councillor White.
In favor.
Mayor Smith.
In favor.
Carries unanimously.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And now moving on to the next item, which is the City of Brantford letter dated December 19, 2025, recall for reform and publication of the Ontario Sex Offenders Registry. And I understand that this was pulled by Councillor Ego, and you have a motion for this as well. Councillor Ego?
Yes, thank you very much, and through your worship, I did ask to have this pulled. You know, Christopher's Law, I would like just to give a little background. We were living in Brampton at the time of this heinous crime, and it happened probably 10 minutes from our home. We had a child the same age, so it's something that has stayed with me. So to see the city raise this, and I'm just going to read here a little article from a newspaper article from 2018. So this has a long time that this has gone on. So the article reads in parts, 30 years after his son was kidnapped, sexually assaulted, and murdered by a known sex offender, Jim Stevenson continues to ensure Christopher did not die in vain. Christopher was kidnapped at knife point in a Brampton mall when he was 11 years old. Joseph Fredericks confessed to police that he had kidnapped Christopher on June 17, 1988, and after hours of abuse, killed the boy and left his body in a field. This past Sunday, which was written, as I say, in 2018, Jim Stevenson noted was the 29th Father's Day since his son's tragic and untimely death. It's been an extremely difficult time, but it's been made endurable by the support of close family and the close family of friends, Stevenson said. Among those family now considers good friends are police officers and other members of law enforcement with whom the Stevensons worked closely in the wake of Christopher's death. But the event, while emotional, focused less on the crimes that had been committed against Christopher and more on the legacy of the young boy left. It was a crime that pushed the Stevensons to advocate for victims for better legislation to protect children. So now on the motion, now the Bradford has stepped forward just to strengthen Christopher's Law. So Christopher's Law is absolutely there, and this is just to build on it. So I would like to read my motion now. The City of Brampton Correspondence, support for reform to sentencing, parole, and public access to the Ontario Sex Offender Registry. Whereas recent violent crimes have highlighted gaps in Canada's sentencing, parole, and offender management systems for violent sexual offenders. And whereas the City of Brampton, Bradford, and several Niagara municipalities have called for reforms to strengthen sentencing, parole accountability measures, and requested amendments to Christopher's Law, Sexual Offender Registry, 2000, to allow public access to the Ontario Sex Offender Registry. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Wasaga Beach supports the calls for reform to sentencing and parole provisions for violent sex offenders and supports amendments to Christopher's Law to permit public access to the Ontario Sex Offender Registry, subject to appropriate privacy and public safety safeguards. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Prime Minister of Canada, the Premier of Ontario, relevant federal and provincial ministers, local members of Parliament and provincial Parliament, AMO and FMC. That is why I'm asking for your support today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ego. Questions or comments on this matter? Seeing none, as we have this motion on the floor moved by Councillor Ego. Can I have a second for this? Councillor Belanger. All right, we have a mover and a seconder, and we'll have a recorded vote. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. On the motion for support, Councillor Belanger.
In favor?
Councillor DeLeo.
In favor.
Councillor Ego.
Favor.
Deputy Mayor Snell.
In favor?
Councillor Timms.
In favor.
Councillor White.
In favor.
Mayor Smith.
In favor.
Carries unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And moving on the agenda to item number 12, recommendations arising from boards and committees. We have none today. And then 13 is council requested staff reports. You've seen the list of staff reports. Any questions or comments on those? Seeing none, moving along to item number 14, notices of motions. We have none. And 15, a motion where notice has been provided. We have none. The next item is item 16, which is closed session. We have a recommended motion that pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, the next portion of the January 15th, 2026 council meeting will move into closed session to consider the following matters. 16.1.1 committee appointments in accordance with section 239 2D 2B, personal matters about the identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. Can I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor DeLeo. All in favor? That carries unanimously. We'll now move into closed session.
And we're live, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Clerk. Welcome back, everything. We're just coming out of closed session, and we do have a Rising report, and I'll look to our clerk, Nicole, for that. Nicole?
Thank you, Your Worship. Council entered closed session today at 11:30 a.m. to discuss the following matter. 16.3.1, committee appointments in accordance with Section 239(2)B of the Municipal Act. As a result of this discussion, the following motions are before Council for consideration. 1, that David Hodds be appointed to the Economic Development and Tourism Advisory Committee to represent the general business community and that Prithvi Desai be appointed to the Economic Development and Tourism Advisory Committee as an economic development and tourism stakeholder, subject to his acceptance of the position. And thirdly, that the clerk be directed to bring forward a bylaw at the January 29, 2026 meeting of council, appointing Delphine St. Jacques to the Committee of Adjustment, subject to her acceptance of the position. If we could get a mover and a seconder, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Moved by Councillor Tim, seconded by Councillor White. All in favor? That motion carries unanimously, Madam Clerk. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 18, which is bylaws, and the recommended motion is that the following bylaws be received and to be deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. And that is 2026-01, 2026-02, 2026-03, and 2026-04. Questions or comments on the bylaws? Seeing none, a mover and a seconder for this, please. Moved by Councillor Ego, seconded by Deputy Mayor Snell. All in favor? That motion carries. Thank you very much, everybody, and this meeting is adjourned.